Hello, I am Daniel Dargis, engineer at Construction Daniel Dargis. Today I want to talk to you about the subject of verification and impartial analysis of submissions. So what is an unbiased and impartial analysis of submissions? Well, as you know, a client who would like to carry out a project, whether it is for a renovation or an entirely new construction, it can range from a small renovation, installing a bathroom, removing a wall, to a house enlargement or building a new structure in new constructions. So immediately, often and in many cases, the clients calls a whole lot of entrepreneurs to know well how much it can cost. Estimating the value of a project, receiving a lot of information from all kinds of entrepreneurs to try to guide oneself to evaluate what the client wants to put himself in the submission, which he eventually wants in order to choose an entrepreneur afterwards. So you can see how much the client is influenced by several considerations, considering that he bases his decision only on what the entrepreneurs themselves are trying to convince him of. So he bases his decision only on the information he receives from one to the other. Whereas, in truth, it would be better if he would do business with an impartial person who has no interest in selling him in order to receive the information to determine a quote or a tender by which he will subsequently ask for prices for all the points he wishes to cover, whether it would be for a bathroom, an extension, or a new house. So the client often, while receiving several submissions, will not know which one he will choose, and often he will be influenced by two criteria that come back most of the time. One is the price, of course, because often he will try to find the cheapest price very often. Or it depends by chemistry on the good interaction that exists between certain individuals, between the entrepreneur and the client. Considering that the entrepreneur is a good salesman and manages to convince the client, no matter what there is hiding in the little details that may be missing in the submissions. That's why this service exists, in order to protect the client as much as possible, in order to verify the submissions well, so that he will not enter into a contract in which many points will be missing, or it can degenerate therein, put the whole project in jeopardy, and it possibly could create even financial problems or even family problems in the client's life. As much for the customer as for the entrepreneur, a service that will allow him to better prepare his bids, to show that he is more credible and also not to forget anything in the bid he presents. So this service of impartial analysis of submission, and this is as much for the client to protect him as for the entrepreneur so that he can better prepare himself. So what does that exactly include an unbiased and impartial submission analysis? First of all, often the clients will receive, as I said, several submissions. So the first thing to do is to let the expert who analyzes impartially, return on the spot on the construction site, or also he will take the customer's plans. He will talk with the customer to review all the points of the plans, to see if there is nothing missing in the whole design or realization of the project, even when going through the work that the engineer and architect must do, the Worker Quebec working cards, the maintenance of the construction site, and so on. So there are a lot of things to know, to include in the submission, so that there is no misunderstanding about anything. So the first thing to do is to go on a visit to the construction site, or also to revise the plans with the clients to make a list of all that there is to do, all that the client wishes for. So we will do a new revision. We will develop a list of all the elements, labor, contractual conditions, warranty, the inclusion of impartial inspections during the work with compliance letter by an impartial building expert engineer, and more. Who will manage the materials? How will the materials be purchased and delivered to the construction site? When will that be done? How long before the works? So a whole lot of information has to be verified. Sometimes the customers will even show up and he will not be able to find a skilled or competent contractor in his immediate network. So he will then call on an unbiased expert who is in charge of analyzing the submissions to help him first and then find and select a contractor. So that's another point of services that are part of the unbiased and impartial submission analysis. So visiting the construction site, reviewing the plans, seeing to it that there is nothing missing from the list of submissions. If necessary, find another contractor and help them make a selection. And offer, of course, as I said, all kinds of changes to the client's submissions, including clarifications to the bid or budget, termination clauses, methods of managing the materials, as I said, and also ensure that the workers will be qualified, certified to perform the work. Too often, customers imagine that when the entrepreneur has a license, he will act properly. This is not necessarily the case, unfortunately, and we must make sure that it is all written down black on white because the customer does not have the reflex to check if workers have their skill card to perform the work in the environment where they have to work. So that's really what the unbiased submission analysis includes. Now, what kind of expert? What qualities should the expert have to assist the client or contractors in these unbiased submission reviews? The first thing, you will immediately understand that he must have multiple qualities. So he must know the building code, of course. He must have technical and practical knowledge on the ground, not just someone who makes plans, who merely does calculations. So he must also know the legal field of construction, manpower issues, and he must also know the time schedule that is normally needed to do such or such work in a normal environment. So you see, it looks like the profile of a person who can be an inspector, a general contractor, someone who is in the legal field without necessarily being a lawyer, but who must also know the laws of the construction business, with some qualities that has an engineer, an architect, a technician, a construction worker. The workers also make good verifiers of submissions, actually. On the other hand, he must also have many qualities, therefore. This person, the impartial expert, must bring together many technical and legal qualities and knowledge of the building code. And all that, he must not only have it, but also offer it in an impartial way, without having any bias in the project. The only bias he can have is to eventually offer his fees, get paid, and to give advice. In addition to that, it is strongly recommended that this expert who acts as an impartial advisor in order to impartially analyze the submissions is subject to a code of ethics, a professional corporation that has a code of ethics. So that is preferable. And also, of course, he must have computer skills to properly present his proposals and submission in a digital way, well done, well written. He should be able to use software like Excel, MS Project, be comfortable with IT, and know how to handle IT tools. And of course, because of these qualities, he must also have the ability to communicate well with clients and entrepreneurs. So he must be able to be a good mediator, someone who is capable to reconcile, to find solutions, to propose solutions with a positive attitude. So he must have good communication skills because often he will have, as we are in the first stage of process where we propose submissions, he will have to transfer the ideas to add to the submission in order to improve the bid to obtain the best deal possible. So these are some amongst the many services that I offer. I, Daniel Dargis. I am an experienced engineer of many years, a general contractor, and also, it must be said, a master journeyman carpenter. When at the beginning of my career a long time ago, about 30 years ago, I worked a dozen years as a CCQ journeyman carpenter. So I have my CCQ journeyman carpenter skills cards. Subsequently, I become an engineer. I work as an engineer. I still work as a building inspection engineer, and I have my contractor's license. I built several houses, even in the province of Quebec, for a decade. After that, I did renovation work for about 10 years, and then I also work, as I do now, as an engineer to give impartial advice. So I invite you to contact me to analyze these submissions if you are a client, to shed light on the submissions they have proposed to you. Try to find the best possible quotes and correction to your submissions, and also if you are an entrepreneur, if you want to submit the best possible submissions and with the best arguments to appear well and have a good image vis-à-vis your clients. So thank you for listening. You can watch many of these videos with information on the various topics of construction on the website ingenieurstructurebâtiment.com. Also, searching the internet on Facebook by searching for Construction Daniel Dargis, and also on YouTube by looking for Daniel Dargis Engineer. And on that, thank you for your listening. I am Daniel Dargis, engineer, general contractor, and CCQ, master journeyman carpenter. Thank you, and see you next time.